ahead and get started. So let me minimize my chat box over here. Hang on just a minute. Getting myself situated. Okay, it is not working. Hang on a second. I was having trouble getting out of the Zoom part of it. Here we go. Okay, I'm ready. Y'all ready? I'm Deb Evans. I'm one of the lead coaches here at Tailored, and I want to introduce you to our team today. So Hannah, as you can see here, is one of our other awesome coaches. She's joining me from Indiana. And Lindsay is our client relations manager. She's going to be running the chat and the Q&A and the polls from Michigan. And then Kavina, she's our marketing director. She is up super duper late. She's coming to us all the way from Thailand. How cool is that we can be coming to you live from all across the globe? I think it's wonderful. So we're looking forward to being with you today. We're going to look at what millennials and Gen Z care about, the differences between the two, tips for connecting with the younger generations. And before we dive in, we just want to walk through just a quick Zoom tutorial for you. In your Zoom screen, you're going to see a chat button. So this is an interactive webinar. We want to learn from each other. We have learned a lot as we have been researching about millennials and Gen Z. So we value your input too. So we're going to be asking you to put your thoughts and your suggestions in the chat. And we're also going to put some helpful information in there for you and maybe some links to some other some resources for you. So just make sure that once you've opened that chat that you click on that blue button at the bottom and select to everyone so that everyone joining can see what's being shared. And then the other button that I want to draw your attention to is the Q&A box. So if at any time you've got a question, put it in the Q&A box, because if you put it in the chat, there's so much information going on in the chat, it can easily get lost. All right, so working with missionaries this last decade has highlighted a common area of concern. We hear it all the time. If I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times. How do we get younger people to join our partnership teams? So if you left for the field 20, 30, even 40 years ago, you're probably in this group of veteran workers who's seeing your current donor base entering retirement with restricted income, or maybe even they're passing away and you're realizing that you need to be engaging with a younger audience to raise the funding that you need for continued service. But we also could have a younger group joining the call today. So before we get started, we want to find out who's on the call. So can you open up this poll question for us, Lindsay? Which generation best describes you? So of course, just choose one. If you are Gen Z, you're born between 1996 and 2015. Or if you're a millennial, between 77 and 95. We've got Gen X, that's me, 65 to 76. Baby boomers, 46 to 64. And then we've got, this was weird to me. I didn't know this, traditionalists or the silent generation. I didn't know that's what you guys were called, who are born between 45 and before that. So hopefully you're not too silent. It's a weird thing. Hannah is all of the three of my co-hosts here. They're all millennials. I'm the only Gen Xer here. But Hannah, what do you think is going to be the most popular answer? Who do you think we got on our call?
Oh, let me see. Oh, I'm like maybe cheating because I think I know two or at least millennials that are here, but I'll go with millennials.
Okay, I was going to go with Gen Xers.
Okay.
Potentially. Let's see. You were right.
Oh,
we have millennials.
Yeah.
But it's pretty close. I mean, we've got a lot. And look, we've got 12%, four Gen Zers. I'm so glad that some Gen Zers are representing and are in the house. So good, we have a good mix of people. That's great. So for any of us, it can be easy to discount what this younger audience can offer while they're still in school or not in stable jobs. But imagine the possibilities of engaging a younger audience now, not just creating awareness of missions in general, but creating awareness that they don't have to wait to experience the joy of giving when they have what they think is a lot of money. They can join right now. And so we believe that this webinar is going to be helpful to understand the passion and motivation of the younger generation, and that they in fact have so much to offer. So let's start by defining who millennials and Gen Z are. So let's start with millennials. So I'll have to admit, I had to do some research here to define that, that dividing line between these youngest two generations. And I was surprised that the term millennial came out 22 years ago, which means I'm super old. It was like a bummer for me. 22 years ago, that's a long time ago. So that means that this group is between the ages of 26 and 41, and they make up 25% of the population, which really gives them a powerful voice. And we need to realize that they're not young kids anymore. These are actually grown people with kids, and they have jobs. Gen Z was born after 1996, so the oldest members of this group are 25, which means if they went to college, they've likely graduated, although some of them still might be in grad school, but most of them are in the early stages of entering the global workforce and consumer landscape if they haven't already entered it. So we tend to think that all young people are the same, but the values, the opinions, and concerns of each of these groups differ even from each other. And using the same strategies that we use with other generations just isn't going to cut it anymore. We are going to need to adapt.
So let's take a look at the things that millennials and Gen Z both care about. Number one is transparency. With the rise of internet, there was also a rise in ease of publicly sharing information that exposed a lack of integrity. So of people, of corporations, and even churches. And because of this, the younger generations are skeptical of motivations and are looking for people and organizations to be transparent about their values, what they support, and how they operate. So this means you need to explain what you're doing, how you're doing it, and even more important, why you're doing it. And for those of you going through a sending organization, you also need to clearly communicate why you chose that organization and what their mission, vision, and values are, so they can begin to build trust in the organization as well. So second thing is social responsibility. Are you or the organization acting in the best interest of society and leaving the world in a better place than you found it? If so, how? Share that with potential partners. For example, if I'm starting a food program serving people experiencing homelessness, I can likely find supporters of that. Great. But if I can add to that job skills, education support, or financial advising that targets the challenges keeping people in homelessness, this will be of particular interest to millennials and Gen Z. It's addressing a deeper need and providing a practical long-term solution to help someone climb out of homelessness, making society a better place in the near future. The third is sustainability. While this buzzword more recently gets attributed to only environmental sustainability, we're talking about everything to do with longevity, including environmental. So are you being responsible with your use of money, people, and resources in a way that will last until the needs no longer exist? Do you have a plan for longevity, or are you burning through resources without considering the consequences of your actions for your ministry, your community, and your environment? So make a plan and communicate your plan for having lasting impact even beyond your physical involvement with the ministry. So for example, you could explain how your organization develops local leaders who will continue the work beyond you and your team. The next and last is involvement. Both millennials and Gen Z want to be a part of something meaningful and something fulfilling. They're passionate individuals, and when you can tap into that passion, it's explosive. So you'll find benefits beyond financial with these groups. Something that can be really powerful for you to do is research your own organization and ministry with these things in mind, the four I just mentioned. So 40% of millennials and Gen Z are going to research you and your ministry and or your organization before they will give financially. 40% are going to do their homework on you. So what will they learn? Will someone from the outside be able to clearly see the values of your organization or ministry? If not, you may want to start publishing that information on your own to make sure people can easily find what they need in order to know and to feel confident in the ministry that they're supporting. So this doesn't mean you have to create your own website, but you could simply create a 1 to 2 page document with details that you have available for them, and they can see that these things are factoring in. So next, we're going to go into how these two generations are different. So while both generations are heavily cause-oriented and have similar passions, approaching them can look a little different. So we want to switch now to helping you think about different ways to engage your audience and how to be intentional in your communication. So if you know us from Tailored, you know we're very specific about communications being tailored to who you are reaching. So of course, what we are about to share isn't going to apply to everyone across the board. We still encourage you to consider each person as an individual in tailored communication. But okay, I will share the millennial point of view since that's where I'm at. And Deb, you're going to what?
I'm going to share Gen Z so that I can feel just a little bit younger today.
Okay, you will represent them well. They will be very pleased to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about transparency and how they differ. Millennials, they are content to know the high level with general explanations of values without knowing every single detail of what is happening, but be upfront with your motivations and your costs, your plans, and how you want them to be involved.
Mm-hmm. So along with that, with transparency, Gen Z, they want to go deep really fast. So you can start with a high level explanation, but be prepared for a lot of questions to draw out more details. Millennials, it's the same thing as millennials, but yet, you want to be upfront about everything. You want to be informative. You definitely don't want to be defensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Social responsibility. Millennials want to know if a company is supporting or investing in other organizations doing good work locally or globally.
The great thing about Gen Z is you can expect active participation in doing good work locally or globally. So they're going to be skeptical of words that aren't proven by action. So mission and vision are a great starting point, but how is that being lived out? Can you prove it? And just a little side note here, a little tip, as much as you want to bring awareness to the need, be careful not to exploit the poor and the oppressed in the process. Remember, you're not selling to this group of people, you're involving them.
Sustainability, they care about all areas of sustainability and have seen how some ministries in the past have only been a Band-Aid or surface level, but they really want to see that long-term impact.
Mm-hmm. And Gen Z care about all areas of sustainability times 10. Again, they're going to be skeptical of your efforts towards sustainability unless they know the plan behind that, or they can see the proven success of the ministry or the organization's sustainability.
Okay. Involvement. So I love this. Millennials are known. I'm known. Well, I'm part of them, but known as the most generous generation. So they want to support work they care about, but are more likely to do it with money than time and skills, likely because they have more money than time. So in fact, 84% of millennials give to charity and 40% are enrolled in a monthly giving program, which is shocking and amazing to me. I'm so encouraged by that.
Mm-hmm. Me too. Me too. But the cool thing about Gen Z is they are likely to donate money and time and skills because they're enthusiastic and not just supporting something great through a donation, but contributing in any way they can. So this is awesome. Take advantage of it. Ask one of them to manage your social media page or to help you gather some stories or volunteer at an event, or there's any number of things that they can do, whether it's local or abroad. Remember that involvement increases investment.
Additionally, with involvement, millennials tend to be habitual and loyal. So when they find something, they like it. They tend to stick with it for the long haul, promote long-standing programs, or you can invite them to be a part of a founding group of a foundational program. As long as you keep them connected, expect them to be a partner for long term.
On the other hand, millennials love their new experiences, right? So they're passionate, they're all in, but the length of time might be limited. So they might be quick to jump to the next new and exciting thing. So you're going to need to find ways to highlight what's new with a ministry or a project, or invite them to partner in the launch of something new. And if you can, invite them to the field for a visit.
Mhm. Now we're going to talk about some of their interests. And because the millennials have experienced problems in the world, they care a lot about human rights and people who have been and or are victims of abuse.
Yeah, and then when we were researching Gen Z and what they're passionate about, it really kind of like came full circle to me with watching the news and everything. They have a passion for activism. They've been exposed to school violence in the 2000s. They feel particularly passionate about causes related to gun violence, to bullying, to social issues. They also have an interest in entrepreneurship. Almost half of them, 41% of Gen Zers, half members of Gen Z, want to start their own businesses. And what's really cool is they also want to start their own nonprofit organizations. One study described them as ambitious, knowledgeable, and passionate. They are thoughtful and seeking ways to broaden their understanding of life and their knowledge of the world. I thought that was amazing because I just kind of lumped them all in like young people. Oh, they're just flighty. And no, they're not. Look at this. They're passionate, knowledgeable, and ambitious, and they want to start their own organizations and make a difference in the world. That's fantastic. So, what we want you to do now is kind of just take a minute and reflect. We want you to think about these 5 areas that we just talked about: transparency, social responsibility, sustainability, involvement, and interest. And think about your current messaging or your communication. So whether that's your presentation, whether it's newsletters that you send out, your social media posts, with just millennials and Gen Z in mind, what is one area that you feel like is missing or needs the most work? So take a minute and think about that. Okay, now we want you to share that with us in a poll. So go ahead and share what is something that you feel like needs the most work. And we'd love for you to just choose one. We know that there may be a couple of them that need work, but what's the biggest one? Hannah, what do you think they're going to say?
Well, I hope it's not that it's all of them, but if it is, we're here to help you with that. I think it could be sustainability. That can sometimes be hard to express.
Mm-hmm. I think you're probably right. I think that, and potentially social responsibility as well. So those are the 2 that I think may come back. And I'm like you, I'm hoping that you don't say all of them, but again, that's right. We're here to help you with that. So let's see what the results are. Is everybody in? Oh my gosh,
Ooh.
Involvement.
Wow. Oh, this is so interesting.
It is. What's so interesting about it for you, Hannah?
Well, because I think that's a really key part as we're trying to reach them and make sure that they are connected to what's going on. And so that's why I'm wondering if there feels like there's this gap of being able to really feel like your partners are connected to what you're doing. So maybe I'm interpreting, and I'd love to hear what involvement meant to others and why they went there with that. But what about you, Deb?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think that if I mentioned that statement, involvement increases investment. And I think we want our partners, we don't want donors, we want partners, right? So we want them to be invested and we want them to be involved. And I think that's the hardest thing, is because we're always communicating from the field. It's kind of like this, we feel like it's this one way conversation, but we want it to be 2-way. So somebody in the chat just said, in our organization, I think the issue is keeping them involved. So yeah, that's huge. That's what we're talking about here, and making it sustainable. So we know we've just thrown a lot at you and we realize that it's hard, but it's really important that we be adaptable in our communication. So both when we're actively fundraising and in our ongoing communication regarding impact on the field. So this includes what we say and how often we communicate and through which channels we share, which we're going to cover in just a minute. But one question that we asked ourselves when we were preparing for this webinar was, so do we need to segment our ongoing communication for older and younger audiences? And we thought no. We feel like everyone can benefit from what we're learning from the younger generation. We all have donors, like I said, but do we actually want them to be donors, or do we want them to be partners, to view themselves actually as shareholders in the work? We don't think you're going to lose the older audience because you're changing the way that you're communicating. Hopefully, they're going to notice that shift and get more excited and more involved. And remember one thing that we learned earlier about how valuable consistency and authenticity are to your Millennial and Gen Z partners. Once they have joined your team, don't default back to your old ways. The name of the game here is adapt. Adapt.
Great. Good. So how do you get connected to them? So let's look into that right now. Now that we know what is important to them and how to adapt our communications, or we're learning, maybe we don't fully know, but we're learning this together. Let's look at a few ideas for ways to actually get you connected to younger generations. And if you've had success in this, please add your ideas in the chat so we can all learn from each other. We would benefit from that. So first is through current partners. One of our coaches recently had a client host an out-of-state Zoom call with some of her adult age family members whose grade school children joined the call as well. So there was this multi-generational gathering, and it was super effective. All three families on the call said yes to partnership. And one of the kids at the end of the presentation said, "I decided tonight I want to be a missionary." So amazing. I'm sure the parents were thrilled to hear that as well. So start with the relationships you already have to help connect you to these younger generations and their families or extended networks. Second would be campus ministries. Consider connecting with the leader of a campus ministry and ask if you can come speak to their group about partnering in missions. Some may already have missions-focused weeks that it would fit really nicely into for you to come and visit, but it also may be the start of something new that they hadn't considered, having a missionary come and speak. And then church ministries, your VBS, your youth groups, your small groups. Almost every church has different groups for all ages. So connect with those group leaders or pastors and see if you can go to speak there. And fourth, social media. So it's not new that the younger generation's main connection to the world is through social media. I know there are a lot of negative opinions about social media. We're not going to go into that right now, but the reality is social media is the easiest way to keep people updated on you and your ministry. So for Gen Z especially, I find this so interesting, they often don't even have their friends' phone numbers or email addresses because they don't need it. Their communication is solely through social media messaging. So we know that for those of you in restricted access areas, social media might not be the option for you. So check with your organization first before utilizing this strategy. If you're intimidated by the idea of getting started with social media, trust us, that it is never too late to learn something new. There are tons of YouTube videos, blogs, or even younger people in your life that would love to help you get started. You can treat them to a nice meal or a cup of coffee, and then you have your social media all set. And if you haven't taken advantage of your free coaching call with us, this is a great topic to be coached through, and we'd love to help you get started with that. Thank you, Lindsay. Lindsay has a link there to be able to have a free coaching session signed up. Okay, one amazing idea we saw was someone who started an Instagram awareness group. So what they did is the focus of the whole post was on prayer for East Asia. They simply posted regularly a photo of a person and added a specific caption about the gospel being shared or the need for prayer. So they asked their Facebook friends to join the Instagram group, and then for them to invite 5 of their friends to join as well to help it grow. And a great follow-up to this would be that as new people begin to follow your account, follow them back, message them, thanking them for their following, and maybe ask them what it was about this that interested them in joining. And if there's anything specific you can be praying for them about. So be proactive with engaging them if you notice they're following. Personal invitations. This is one that is actually true of any generation. So, but if it seems there's an idea that with a solid social media campaign, you can get droves of youngins to join your team. Well, yes, you will often see more younger people participating in the social media campaign than older people, but a personal invitation will still yield the greatest results. So the difference is that this personal invitation is likely to come through social media or a text message or even a voice or video text rather than email, letter, or phone call. But remember, for those overseas, that text can also come through WhatsApp. And I'd like to share a story with you that I hope encourages you in this area. So one of our coaches' clients returned from a short-term trip to Rwanda, and she posted about the trip on social media and followed up with people who commented on her photos and stories. And from there, she collected 80 Facebook friends' emails. So she now has this huge group of contact information. She plans to reach out personally to each name to see who would like to meet via Zoom, and so they can learn more about her trip, what she's doing, and ask her questions and potentially partner with her in the mission. All right, Lindsay, did we get any suggestions in the chat box of other ways to get connected to millennials or Gen Z, or any examples that someone's had and successful?
Yeah, we've gotten a couple of questions in the chat and suggestions as well. Remember, if you have a specific question for Deb and Hannah, that if you'll put that in the Q&A, it's easier for us to keep track and make sure we answer it. Sometimes they get lost in the chat.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're seeing a few suggestions here. Sadie says, a lot of people are having questions about involvement and how to get people involved at a distance, right? But one thing that she did achieve was reaching out and asking for general resources that could be referenced or even translated. For example, she was working on a mentoring program, but since she didn't have a ton of experience, she reached out to people who she knew did. So that's a good suggestion.
Good job, Sadie Grace.
And then Grady shared that he's Gen Z and starting a Facebook page or Instagram account is a really easy way to keep people updated. He asked many people over Facebook Messenger to join his partnership team, and it worked at a lesser rate than calling, but it still worked nonetheless. So
great. Excellent.
See,
so was there a question, Lindsay? Go ahead.
Yeah, here's a question in the Q&A. How can we handle security issues with having open pages on social media?
Yeah, that's a toughie because you really need to have private pages. If it's security issue, you need to have private pages, not open pages. And you really need to check with your organization too, and just make sure what things you can post and what things you can't post. Kavina, do you have any thoughts on that?
For private Instagram pages, there's really only we might have to get the name of the person you've connected with and they can follow you, so you can choose who follows your page, so they can still stay connected with you as a ministry and as a missionary if you know them, if that makes sense. Yeah, you don't have to, they can still see full updates, because my friend who has to have a private Instagram, who's a missionary, will only allow people to follow her who she knows. Yeah, so you can
Kavina, do you know if they can share content? So I know that's a big concern, is that within private groups that they're not able to share out beyond the private group.
They cannot. Yes, if you have a private, you can't share the stories. You can't. It stays. Yeah.
Good.
Another suggestion just came in the Q&A, and it says, for their outreach to women involved in prostitution, they take photos of hands and feet or their back, never their face, and always change the name. We never identify the name of the streets we work, but they can post quite a bit that way. And then I'm also seeing a really helpful suggestion in the chat from Kayla. She uses a text alert system for her ministry updates. It texts people when she sends out a newsletter. And she said it's helped a lot with newsletter readership. And it's called Remind App, and it's free if that's something you guys want to try.
Excellent. Thank you, Kayla.
I'm putting that in our notes for next time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Cool.
And then I've got one more
Yes.
question before we keep going, you guys. This is from
Okay.
Penny. It says, how much does this generational information apply cross-culturally? For example, Western versus Asian mindsets. Maybe Kavina can help us with that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure which Asian country, but in Thailand, social media is even more. It's like wildfire out here. Like people, I think, like it more in Asia. So if you can be online, I encourage you to be online as much as you can as a ministry. And they do value a lot of the things that we've listed. I think one thing that I think Asian people may care less about is sustainability, and that's a sad thing because I'm in the sustainability. I influence people to be more sustainable, and it feels like they care less about that. So I would push in other areas, I think, in Asia.
This is a really good question. Thanks for answering that. I can't speak to Europe. Anybody in European audience or in South America that can answer that in the chat? Anybody got some thoughts on that? We can keep going and we can come back to that if anybody has other thoughts on that. So, all right, let's talk about how to stay connected. So just like any other donor, it's vital to stay in communication with someone after they become a partner in order to keep them as a partner. And this is even more so with the younger generation. They really expect a personal touch and to stay informed. So here's some suggestions of some ways that you can do that. Okay, so mobile friendly everything, right? 98% of Gen Z have smartphones, and the vast majority of internet content across all generations is consumed on a mobile device. So before you send anything, look at it from your phone to make sure that it looks good, or you know how to direct people who are viewing things from their phone. More and more, if you're giving instructions for how to navigate something online, it would be better for them to be mobile instructions than to be desktop instructions. Okay, next is social media. Not surprising, right? Instagram is probably the one that we'd recommend the most, as it has the greatest overlap in generational audiences, and also because of its ease of syncing with Facebook that allows you to post in both places at once. It's also image and video based, which has shown to get higher views and engagement. Fun fact here, because they have a willingness to be involved, 59% of people in Gen Z, that's over half of them, donated to a charity after being inspired by a social media message. So that ought to tell us how important it is to tailor our messaging and the platforms that we use to communicate with this audience. Next, utilize messaging over phone calls. So according to Open Market, 83% of millennials open text messages within 90 seconds of receiving them. Wow, that's awesome. I do too, though, unless I'm on a call with somebody else, but I open a text message very quickly. Millennials prefer text messages for the ability to communicate quickly and conveniently, but messaging can also be through social media or through any number of messaging apps like GroupMe or even WhatsApp. Next is videos. So whether this is through an email newsletter, social media, or a text, videos are where it's at, right? Your organization might have some wonderful videos that you can share in your presentation or in your communication, but keep in mind, in my experience, they're usually pretty long. So if that's the case, ask if you can edit them down to just show the parts that are speaking directly to what you're trying to address. So anywhere from 10 seconds to 2 minutes, no longer than that if possible. Usually there's somebody at your organization that could help you with that, but if not, there's tons of YouTube videos and stuff out there. You can learn how to edit a video. It's not hard. I even learned how to do it. So consider occasionally turning your newsletter even into a brief video update, or sharing a live thank you to make a stronger connection with younger audiences. In particular, short videos that are funny, that have bright graphics, those are gonna grab attention quickly. So what we really are trying to encourage you to do is to show what the ministry does, not just tell what the ministry does, but show it with a picture or a video. A newer newsletter platform that we love is a mix, the look of it is a mix between social media and an email newsletter, and it's called Epistle. So what happens is missionaries post Instagram style updates to Epistle as things are happening in their lives and ministries. And then Epistle groups these updates together and sends them to ministry partners automatically. And the ministry partners can choose actually how often they want to see them, whether that's weekly or monthly. I can't remember what other choices they have, but they do have choices as to how often they can see them. And our clients who use it have really commented on how relationships with ministry partners have deepened as partners respond with likes. So there's little like buttons, there's little praying hands, you can hit that, you can even hit give, and then there's this comment box too, which is great. So it really encourages involvement. I know that my clients who are on it, I often will comment back on their stuff and they'll comment back to me. So it's nice to keep in relation, even though I'm not seeing them anymore on a weekly basis, I'm still keeping in touch with them. So there's a screenshot, of course, of what it looks like. It is $9 a month, but think about the investment that is in sustainability and in the meaningfulness of your communication with your partners. If you want to try it out, they also have a 14-day free trial. So Lindsay, if you could just add that to the chat. Oh, you did already. Thank you. You guys can check that out. It's really fun. I love it. Another thing to consider is giving platforms. So it's crucial for you to have easy ways for people to give online, including setting up recurring donations. So if you don't have an easy online option, you need to find one. If your organization has a really outdated system that makes it difficult and you don't have the option to have your own, we really encourage you to walk through the process with your partner to make sure they get signed up. You can say something super easy like, would you have just a few minutes to sign up right now? That way I can track my progress right away and I can make sure everything goes into the system correctly, versus saying our system is super outdated and it's really difficult. So can we just walk through this right now? You don't want to admit that there's anything wrong with your organization, but if you know that it's slow, just go ahead and try to get them signed up and walk them through it. Don't expect them to figure it out. Don't make them struggle to figure it out. We're not talking about even sending them instructions through a text. We are talking about literally jumping on a quick phone call or video call with them and going step by step to make sure that they get started. Or, you could take them out for coffee and do it in person. Any generation loves that. But know that your giving platform matters. If it's complicated to navigate, or if there's not an online option, you could lose a lot of millennials and Gen Z who just aren't going to take that time to take that extra step and make a phone call to your organization to get their gift set up. All right, finally, consistent and impactful communication. Whatever avenue you choose for your communication, make sure that it's consistent and that it reminds people of the mission that you're on together. That they're a part of it. Share the impact that's being made. Don't assume that people remember what the ministry or the mission is. Regularly communicate it. So if you want younger generations to be part of your team, again, what's the word of the day? Adapt. Adapt and do the work.
Great. Thank you, Deb. Well, let's take a moment to reflect on what we have experienced today. What is something in this webinar, please share your responses here. What is something in this webinar that has been helpful for you? And include that in the chat box, and make sure again to select everyone, so it's not just coming to us. And then we'll take a moment to reflect on that together.
I noticed also in the chat, remember when we were asking about different cultures and how, if this is true, across culture.
Yeah.
Beverly was saying that Mexicans use their phones exclusively, not as much as email, and social media is super important, and WhatsApp is king. That's so interesting.
Yes.
And they have groups for everything. They have like high inclusion needs there in Mexico, apparently. Yeah, Amy, it is super encouraging how many millennials are givers. I was surprised to know that that's the most generous generation as well. That is encouraging.
Okay. Yep. So the importance of using Instagram. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, lots on social media.
John said it was helpful to know the different preferred methods of communication. See, that went up to a bit. Yeah. Very different than my preferences. And that's what we have to learn, isn't it? That this isn't what I need, but that this may be helpful for someone else. So very good.
Yeah, I'm glad some people are going to check out Epistle. There's a few people who are thinking about alternate forms. Again, like I said, I think it's really, really fun. And I like a good hashtag. So there's hashtags you can put up at the top. And it's pretty user-friendly. The only thing that I will mention about Epistle, I have somebody who's working in a closed access country, and it is a secure website, but it doesn't say on it, like you have to, on the front page of it, there's a place that you can customize a photo. And so what we did was we customized the photo there, and then we put a tagline on there that says, like, for security purposes, please don't forward this to anyone. So Epistle is secure, but it doesn't have a place that says that to people. So that's how we handled that. And I think that they're aware of that and they're working on something to address that. But anyway, just yeah.
Kavina, do you have any suggestions or any app suggestions that are really good for video editing that are simple, user-friendly? If you have any app suggestions that you know are helpful, please add those or share those.
I am super old school and I just do it in the app it provides. So Instagram and TikTok. And I would say I've seen a lot of cool ministries who have been active on TikTok, since Gen Z is mostly more on TikTok than Instagram. And there has now been an update on TikTok for internal editing. So you can do a bunch of stuff in the app itself. So yeah, I'm old school. If someone else has suggestions, would love to hear.
Something we talked about, Deb, when we were preparing for this too, regarding involvement. That was a key issue here, is to, if you are doing something in your ministry that it's about ready to grow, or you're about ready to engage in something, so it's not the full package yet, that to involve Gen Z and the research and the study work and the framing of it, almost like the architect behind something you're building. So since they are research focused and they have, information right at their fingertips, that could be a great way to make them feel like they're contributing to what it is that you're building and creating.
I have a video idea that I just saw a missionary actually do. They were a part of Teach Beyond, and they're just a teacher in a European country, and Teach Beyond featured them and asked them to do day in a life of a European missionary. So just like record throughout your day. This is the coffee I drink. This is the coffee shop I go to. Like, this is my friend who I just made, and then post it on Reels. Because as you guys know, Instagram wants to be TikTok. So don't post a lot of stagnant graphics. Work as much as possible to make moving graphics and videos. That's king right now.
That's king is going to be our phrase for this webinar,
That's
right?
king.
This webinar, it was king.
Oh my goodness.
And short is also king.
We have a few great questions that are coming in. So do we want to take a minute to ask questions now?
Yes, we sure can.
Sure. Yep.
Okay, I'll start with this one. It says, how do we deal with the reactionary tendency in Millennial and Gen Z giving? Is the quick response to social media message in tension with developing lasting partnerships, or is there a way these things go together? Is there a way to move reactionary giving to long-term partnership?
Absolutely. Reach out as soon as possible, thanking them for their giving as well as getting to know them. Ask if you can meet over a Google Hangout or a Zoom or a FaceTime or something like that. Get to know them. Ask questions like, what was it about this post that you saw that inspired you to give, what resonates with you about the ministry, and really identify their passions and then get to know them and then invite them into ongoing giving. Would you like to increase your involvement or extend your investment by continuing to invest in the ministry? So for the sustainability, again, using words like to put the ministry in a position of strength, or to for lasting sustainability, for kids to continue to hear the gospel at the school, or for Muslims to hear the good news of Christ on a weekly basis. Would you like to continue your investment in making a difference together as a long-term partner? Ask that, but you've got to do the work to reach out. But follow up immediately with those people and get to know who they are.
Thank you, Deb. Another great question is, with my organization, signing up for giving is easy, but changing information or giving later is difficult. They have to contact the main office to get an account set up, that type of thing. So how can they work with partners to make sure they follow through when maybe systems aren't so simple?
I would say the same thing again, like you're reaching out to your person, maybe just even acknowledging, I've noticed that I haven't seen your giving come in. Is everything okay with you and your family? And then they may say, yeah, it's really difficult to get this set up. You could even say, what if we did that together? Could we get on a 3-way call? I mean, I get on a 3-way call with my mother and my sister every Saturday and go walking, just like merge the call together. That could be an idea. I don't know if that would work or not. I'm just shooting from the hip, but it could be that maybe they would like your help together. So to say, what if I called the organization and then just merged you in and we just did this together? Would that be helpful for you if we did that? Ask them how you can be helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And then here's one more kind of comment question. It says, speaking of TikTok, of all the social media programs, it's harder to think of something serious rather than entertaining. So how can we kind of shift our mindset in using TikTok or even Instagram to reflect something serious rather than entertaining?
That's a good one. I'm not a TikTok user, so I don't know.
Yeah, Kavina, I'm gonna
Yeah.
ask you that because you're the TikTok user of all of us.
I love TikTok, and I follow a lot of funny people, but also I've seen a lot of serious TikToks as well. I think when they flip so quickly, the first thing you need to think of is sound. So choose a more like not like super sad, but when you hear a sound of like, commercial or a dog commercial or in the arms of like kind of that kind of vibe. So make it more like, use a sound, use that to your advantage. And then for a serious TikTok, I would use that sound, show imagery of your ministry, and then use text to on top of that sound to really speak to people, let them have a quiet moment to read it. That to me is the more serious TikToks. And then I think just you can speak seriously in visuals with no speaking. I think that is more serious. Yeah.
But again, I would say to remember not to be exploitive in that as well.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because you also know that Gen Z, they're passionate, but they're also very opinionated, and can very they're not afraid to speak their minds. So be careful what you put out there, for sure.
Thanks for jumping on that, Kavina.
So feel free to still add any questions if you have them or comments. Just want to take a moment to remind you that we would love for you to schedule an appointment with Benny, one of our tailored coaches, to set up a free call so he can answer any questions you might have about whether or not coaching is right for you. And he will help you with the potential next steps of what that would entail. So everyone, right now, there's that link there. Thank you, Lindsay, for adding it. You can click on that to set up a call with Benny. We also want to invite you to our webinar in September, where we will walk through step-by-step guide for creating a generous year-end appeal strategy, which is very timely. September is the right time to begin planning for that. Okay, and Allison, I saw your comment here. I want to make note of that. Helpful for you that Gen Z with their short attention span need quick turnarounds, progress towards something meaningful, which means if I'm sending them to the field, they will need to be engaged at a higher and higher level by their field supervisors. They get bored or stop seeing value, they will come off the field for something new. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see a question again. Kamina, this question's for you in the Q&A. So piggybacking off the TikTok question, how would you suggest going about using sound in TikToks but not infringing on copyright? A lot of the sounds used in trends on TikTok are from copyrighted music.
If you are just staying on the TikTok platform and using their library, it's not copyrighted. It's safe to use on TikTok. Okay. But if you say, so I've tried to, I have a YouTube channel, and if you as a ministry or missionary have a YouTube channel and you save the TikTok with that famous sound and post it on YouTube, it will get flagged because it's not YouTube sound. So as long as your followers stay on TikTok, you won't get any strikes or anything like that. Yeah. So you're safe on TikTok. Just make sure to just go to the TikTok music library and you're safe.
Oh, Mark has something in the comment box. He says, while it might be more challenging to get set up, I've seen colleagues successfully use more secure apps like Signal and Telegram in creative access countries to do social media to limited groups or to a limited group. It seems that younger generations don't mind having more than one messaging app. That's a great tip. Thank you. I'm going to add that to our notes as well. You guys have a lot of good tips. That's why we love doing stuff like this, because we love to learn from each other. Well, I don't see any other questions at the moment. So I want to be respectful of our time because we're nearing the top of the hour. So we want to just let you know that we're thankful for you. We're thankful that you joined the webinar today. We view you as a partner in the Great Commission. If you decide that you want to pursue coaching, we will personalize our approach with you based on your situation and your needs. Sometimes we'll train you in best practices. Other times we're going to create awareness around potential challenges. And always, always, we will share with you the resources from our vast library that you can tailor to your particular audience. So we're here to encourage you, to motivate you, to lift you up, empower you, and support you in any way that we can. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. We still don't have any more questions, right, Lindsay?
Nope, you're good to go.
Nope. Okay. All right. Thanks, you guys, for joining us. Lindsay's going to send out an email with some of the resources that we used today with some of the articles so that you can read yourselves as well. So thanks for joining us. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. And we hope to see you at next time's webinar in September.
Very good.
Okay. Bye, you guys.
Bye, everyone.